Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Paul M., Andy S., and Michael P. Returning to the program today is James Sykes. James is the Chief Executive Officer and Director of Baselode Energy. Baselode is focused on exploration and discovery on its projects in Southeast Athabasca Basin. The company is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol FIND and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol BSENF. Jim, good to talk. How are you?
Doing awesome. Yourself?
We're hanging in there. A little bit of blood. Luckily, it's not coming from our side, so that's a good thing. But certainly the markets are interesting here. What's happened in uranium recently is interesting and, in my opinion, a very good thing. But I'd like to get your thoughts out of the gate here on the market. Some investors are concerned and others very pleased to see the pain. But how is morale on your side, and what are your thoughts on this market?
The market has to continue up. I've never really seen it faltering away. Even when we were back in the doldrums a few years ago, it was always the question of when, not if. And we've seen the market moving. There's too much going on in the world today to not adopt nuclear energy or try to find and develop more uranium. It's a necessity for humanity moving forward. So you can't really take that out of the equation and think that it's just going to peter off and die out again. It is a necessity just as much as we need air to breathe and water to drink and food to eat. We need energy, and nuclear energy is the best. Whatever happens in the short term, with things going on, and the war in Russia and Ukraine, such terrible things happen, but we still have that demand. So long term, I continue to see the uranium market being there and being sustainable, and it's definitely for the long term investors, I do believe.
The broad market might cut us down in the interim, but that would be a temporary situation in my view on this. But things are looking good. Great to see NuScale Power get SMR ticker listed. Finally, good to see them get out of the gate here. We've been a long time supporter before everybody on social media started talking about it in the last 6 months, but been supporting that company going back as far as 2017 on our side. So yeah, great to see that. Great to see the progress. Another bumpy road here, but I think anybody who's been in this sector for a while understand that this is a bumpy road, irrespective of how good things will be in the end. The broad market just throws another wrench in the spokes, if you will, for a period of time, and we'll continue to get through this as we have in this really a series of higher lows and higher highs as we're moving on here over the years. So I think you keep the big picture in perspective here. The fundamentals haven't changed. Matter of fact, almost nothing has really occurred, even while we've seen substantial price increases with respect to the spot price of uranium and the fuel cycle. You know what, even at this uranium price, nobody seems too interested in doing much of anything. Not much has happened on the fundamental changes that would concern myself. Let's move on here. Why don't we talk baseload? Maybe before some of the standard questions that I was going to ask, how about you give us an update on news coming out of the Hook project, specifically the Ackio zone? What's the latest?
We just put out news today that we intersected mineralization as shallow as 38.5 meters from surface. This is a game changer for us. This is exactly what we've been looking for. This is Athabasca 2.0 strategy that we're looking for near surface mineralization. We hit 6.25 meters at close to 1,000 counts per second. Obviously, we don't have assays, but you can go back and look at some of the drill holes where we do have assays and SINT comparisons, and you can see that this is going to be pretty interesting for sure. It's this just opens up everything. There wasn't any sandstone. We went right through the overburden, which is all waste rock to think about, and then as soon as you're at that overburden contact, boom. Mineralization is just sitting right there. So it provides a lot more prospectivity for the rest of the project moving forward. As we've been saying in a lot of our news releases moving forward, that as we continue to the southeast, we have been seeing shallower and shallower intersections of mineralization in that direction. This one was, to be very honest, it was a surprise. None of us expected it there, but it was definitely to the west of where we've been drilling, trying some new drilling ideas. And I think this is definitely eye-opening for us. And one of the things that I'll be talking about in the future, though, is comparing what we have here, what we've been seeing at Ackio, with other reputable and known open pit or underground deposits that were in production in the past. Districts like Uranium City, Cluff Lake, Rabbit Lake, and the Collins Bay deposits, even going back to Elliott Lake in Ontario and Bancroft. Those are jurisdictions where they were mining 0.1% or less U3O8 in underground scenarios, in sometimes in really good markets between the 70s and 80s, when uranium price was skyrocketing, adjusted for inflation. But even then, they were still producing in some pretty terrible markets. So we see that this being a potential opportunity for Ackio to be a developed situation. We're 10,000 meters into a drill program. We've got another 10,000 meters planned for at least. We're fully funded for a total 40,000 meters. Just depends on the drill production rate and being able to really fulfill that. I don't think we will see 40,000 this year. We'd like to see the 20,000 min, which I think I can almost guarantee that we will hit that and then some. But the goal for that is to basically flesh out at least a kilometer of strike length based on the geophysical anomalies that we see. And then those anomalies continue even further to the southeast. So we've got a lot of room to grow this, and we've got the budget, we've got the meters, we've got the time.
Jim, that sounds good. So refresh the audience here. What would be the next steps with this near surface intersection? What is the plan next to chase this up, and what will be the focus based on the results that you guys have just come up with?
We're going to poke a few holes in the area. It's too exciting not to do that. So we'll see how it pans out. We do have some current ideas as to what could be the controls on it, and that's what we'll be testing. So with the two drills on site, so we'll have one doing that for a little bit, and we'll keep the other one progressing to the southeast, as that is the direction that we need to go. We're always hopeful to find that unconformity situation. And just simply the reason is because, yes, we would expect mineralization to be shallower to surface. Not necessarily from what we just hit, but based on what we hit previously, unconformity mineralization should be pretty shallow, within 100 meters from surface, which is still within that open pit range. But the idea of unconformity mineralization is that it's typically of higher grade and more concentrated. So that has always been one of our objectives, and we continue to move forward. But now with this intersection, you don't need unconformity mineralization. You can have basement hosted mineralization the entire way, just so long as it's open pitable depths, really. So anywhere from surface down to 200 meters or less, like we're seeing. Our goal is to find as much between that 0 to 100 vertical depth range. That's
Sounds
meters,
great.
sorry, not feet.
It's good to have these conventional deposits in terms of just open pittable. In my opinion, a nice thing to have continued to delineate what you have near surface here. Looking forward to at least following this and seeing how this goes. But certainly so far, the market seems to like what you guys are up to here.
And don't quote me on this, but I think one of the other benefits of this, again, I'm trying to find out more about this, but I was always under the impression that MacArthur ore was too high grade for the Key Lake mill to handle, and that they had to downblend it. And I don't know if they ever downblended with tails from Key Lake, or if it was just waste rock from MacArthur River itself or from Key Lake. But if that is a true scenario, that MacArthur River ore has to be downblended, and Cameco is coming back online with MacArthur River, as they've suggested, then their ore will need to be downblended further. So one of these possibilities that we've been pitching around lately, especially after this discovery, was that if we define an open pitable resource, yeah, operating costs typically are very low for that. You've got the mill already built there, so there's no issues with that. And the mill's got permits from CNSC for, I think they're up for renewal, but I don't see why they wouldn't get them. So why not have a win-win situation where you'd use the lower grades that we're seeing at Ackio to downblend with the higher grades at McArthur River. So you're downblending ore with ore, but you're also upgrading the Ackio ore. So we'll see. Just ideas to spitball out there.
Yeah, interesting. How about Shadow and Catharsis? Any updates there? What are the plans with those, or will the focus come back to those potentially later?
That's something else we've been humming and hawing about. Shadow, we've had some very interesting developments recently with the local community up there. So they've just had a new election. The chief got reelected. They've got some new council, but they have reached out to us and have alluded to being open to really reopen the idea of exploration in the area again. So that is definitely exciting to get back into. Hopefully we can have more discussions with the community in the months to come and start resolving that and look to continue exploration on there next year. As far as Catharsis goes, we were planning a drill program. We're planning a lot of airborne geophysics and a ground follow-up survey just for some of the high-grade uranium and even rare earths that we're seeing on the project. But as far as the drill program goes, again, with this recent intersection at Ackio, hole 38, that's changed a lot of scope for us. So we have decided to kind of backpedal on Catharsis, leave it on the back burner. If there's anything there, it's not going anywhere. Ackio is doing wonders for us, for the company. It's shaping up to be an exciting discovery. So we really want to put our full foot forward into that. So unfortunately, Catharsis will be deferred as far as the drilling goes. The geophysical surveys they are ongoing. They're being flown this month. Continuing on into June. But then we still want to get on the ground and just do some reconnaissance exploration because some of those targets look very exciting. I'm also under the impression that some of those high grade deposit or some of those high grade showings that they see at surface, which were noted in calc-silicate rocks, I do believe that they could actually line up with the same lithology that we're seeing at Ackio. So a lot of things to be taken into consideration with that, but we could do with more time to fully plan and implement Catharsis. And so shadows are rocking and rolling. Let's keep that song going.
How about capital structure? How about you update us there in terms of shares outstanding at this point, the cash on hand, major shareholders, and then also with what is happening, when do you expect the next financing to take place?
We started the year with 20 million in the bank, so we did a few big raises, but we also had about three and a half million in warrants subscribed uh, or cashed in. So that was very nice. We're down to about 16 million as of the end of April. So we have our burn rate is quite high to be expected with 2 drills operational, and we have completed about 10,000 meters of drilling. So roughly that $400 to $500 per meter all in costs to be expected. Gas prices and diesel prices have not helped at all, though, unfortunately. And yeah, so we're still fully funded, 16 million in the bank, and we can see it through to the rest of the year. Do we have to go back and finance this year? Probably not. We've got about 1.2 left in flow through commitments that we have to spend, and that's basically already done. So the rest will all be hard dollars, and we can hold on to those with no necessity to expend those by the end of the year. So it's not a big rush to get back to the market. We'd like to see the share price increase by that point, by the time we do go back to the market. So hopefully with all the results, hopefully after 20,000 to 30,000 meters of drilling, we can make that happen. Right now we've got about 85 million shares outstanding, fully diluted. We're closer to 112. So we've got about 8.5 million options outstanding, and then another 19 million warrants outstanding as well. An average strike price of those warrants, I do believe, is around that 60 to 70 cents.
Anything you want to mention on the major shareholders at this point?
Sorry, to be honest, there are no real major shareholders. We don't have one institution that really does trump all the others. More recently, we were purchased by the North Shore Global Uranium ETF, which was absolutely phenomenal. I guess they did take a very large position in Find. Uh, Absolutely phenomenal to be recognized as a company that would fit that portfolio. So if there was one major shareholder that trumped everybody, I think it might be them. But we've got a lot of other institutions within us. Sprots come into every placement, and they've got a large portion. QC Copper and Gold, who were basically the founders of the company, really got us going. They still have a large position, about 14% of the outstanding shares are controlled by QC Copper and Gold, QCCU on the TSXV.
Yeah, you guys are in a good position here, and if you guys are able to do a little bit more with some of the work out there at Ackio, maybe the share price gets up nicely to where you guys could walk away some more money here as we get into the second half of this year. You mentioned it earlier, Jim, in some of your comments, but talk broadly about Athabasca in terms of the crowded exploration side of things, but also the big three junior developers out there. I mean, it's a great opportunity in this area for speculation and generally riding the rising price environment. Obviously, the real pop comes with discovery work. But outside of the exploration investing, when do you think one of the junior developers could actually get into production?
It's a very good question. It's a that's a tough one for me to really answer because there's a lot of people trying different things. Denison with their ISR approach, who really knows when they can pull that off. Next Gen looks to be making some very big strides with Arrow. Uh, Again, when it's really a question of what else do they have to get by on as far as permitting and mill. What are they going to do for a mill? There's still a lot of questions that need to be asked there. So we will. It's really a waiting game, and I can't really comment too much on what the other companies are doing. I've been trying to maintain my focus on Baselode and Ackio, and trying to, you know, not to be rude to the other companies, but trying to up them and show that what we have going on at Ackio is the one that will make it to the production side first. Makes sense. It's if we've got open pit material with a mill right by, building infrastructure in the area is not too difficult at all. There's a lot of there's a lot of easy pathways for Ackio to just really propel itself. Our drilling is shallow, where we're not drilling down a kilometer or 500 meters or anything like that. Most of our drill holes are between 250 to 300 meters depth. So we're again with 20,000 meters, we'll define a strike length of 1 kilometer at 50-meter spacing, which is pretty tight. If we had to go back and define some more, then we just start infilling with 25-meter spacing, all towards the goals of a 43-101. Once we're at that stage, then really, if things look great, then you're at the next steps, PEA, and again, you just be looking at an open pit scenario. So we hope that we can be the guys who can have the next deposit that goes forward in the Athabasca. We are up against people who have got a big lead on us with the likes of Denison and Next Gen, but also Orano working on their Sabre technology, which you look at the tried, tested, and true of the Athabasca. What's gone from discovery into development in the history has been open pits. It's taken them from discovery to production anywhere from 6 to 12 years. Some of these companies are already hitting those years, and they're not much further than just basically having a discovery. So this was Athabasca 2.0. This was our strategy getting into the space. This was our objective from day one. This is what we saw. This is what we visualized, and we're hitting it.
It's good comments. We're going to be able to follow this along and really see what it takes. We know what everybody's said, and we've seen the timelines. There's enough evidence and presentation materials and documents to suggest the timelines, but it'll be interesting to see how close they come to those timelines and, obviously how things go in this market, of course, going forward there. But
I'll point something else out about open pits in the Athabasca. Uranium City, when they were mining there, they had some open pits, but a lot of it was underground. Their average grade was about 0.2%, and that was 60 million pounds over X amount of deposits. There was, I think 14 different deposits that they mined there for 60 million pounds, 0.2%. What did they have to do though? They had to build a mill. Clough Lake, the first mines that really went into production there were the open pits. They had about 10 million pounds of open pit material at 0.3%. What did they have to do there? They needed to build a mill. Rabbit Lake, 40 million pounds. I think the average grade there was about 0.9, so it was good. And then they had all the Collins Bay. Rabbit Lake and Key Lake are nice, lucrative scenarios. Like McArthur River would never gone forward without the Key Lake mill already being there. And it's basically the same with Eagle Point and even those Collins Bay deposits. They all needed the mills. The mills are already established. There's a mill at McLean Lake, there's a mill at Key Lake, there's a mill at Rabbit Lake. So Ackio does not need the mill, which is why we think that having lower grade is not a terrible situation.
Interesting points here, and we'll see what becomes of it here as we move through the cycle and who can stick to timelines and who can't, etc. So, well, Jim, that was pretty much all I had here. Any comments before I sign off with some final questions before we wrap up?
I guess one final comment alluding to what you had talked about earlier about the SMRs. We might not be seeing the deployment here in the North American side of things or in the Western world, but the East is certainly moving forward with them. Russia continues to expand the technology, as does China, especially with some of the Chinese reactors coming online, being SMRs. These are the game changers we've been waiting for, that the nuclear market has been waiting for, and we're starting to see it coming to fruition now. And it will only be a matter of time before this technology really starts to take off and deployment becomes more accessible across the globe. So once companies like NuScale and others really start to ramp things up and get through the permitting process on their ends of things, we can see this industry take off again.
I'm excited to see how it goes here and who becomes the leader in the West. I think obviously NuScale has that leg up on most folks in the West, but U.S. NRC, that's only one area, is one jurisdiction, and U.S. of course has been terribly behind with respect to leadership. We'll see what happens next. Back to Baselode for potential investors who are listening in. Market cap of the company stands at about 76 million Canadian. What would you say to them about considering the company at this stage?
I think we're undervalued at this point in time, to be honest. It's a discovery, and it's really hard to put valuation on a discovery, especially without a resource. But I do see this thing being quite large, quite robust. We'll definitely have some pounds in the ground for sure. And with the idea that this could be something that goes into production, really differentiates us from the rest of the pack, I guess, is that a lot of people have discoveries, a lot of people have deposits, but are they going to move forward and in a timely fashion? And I think that is the biggest differentiator that we have going forward. So, I think we will hit some of our bigger targets. Mineralization, or I guess radioactivity mineralization, is increasing with each step we make to the southeast. So it's a weird way to think about grades, but we do see radioactivity being equivalent to grades. So I'll basically say the grades are getting better as we go to the southeast. We don't have assay results yet back, so it's not confirmed, but everything just looks great. And I do honestly believe that Baselode will be the standout company of the year.
And the best way for investors to reach out to the company?
They can email me directly, jsykes, JSYKES, at oregroup.ca, OREGROUP.ca. You can also email the company's website, info@baselode.com. You can go to our website, check out everything on there. You can follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We've also got a YouTube channel. And people can get in touch with us. I like to hear from investors. I always answer the emails and try to be as honest as possible.
Jim, always a pleasure to chat. Good luck with the continued success of Baselode.
Thanks, Andrew. Always a pleasure.